everyone. Welcome to the stock-specific class here for Thursday, August the 26th. I have a little bit of a pullback in the market today, but that's to be expected after the pretty incredible 5-day run that we've had. Markets aren't going to go straight up. What you want to see in a pullback like this is you want to see it be orderly and not a lot of panic behind it. You don't mind a little uncertainty because that's usually what leads to the selling, and there's definitely news stories out there creating a little bit of doubt in the market. There's a term that you hear a lot on Wall Street, which is that the market tends to climb a wall of worry, meaning that in a nice, healthy trend, it's always good to have a little bit of negative news out there that the market is worried about. It's when the market gets really confident and isn't worried at all that you have to be concerned that maybe you're topping out or near a top when that starts to take place. Or if the news starts panicking the market and you get a lot of fear that builds up, that can really drive the selling that leads to bigger pullbacks. So none of that today, so we're not too concerned about that. Let's take a look real quickly at the direction alerts. We have moved in to the extreme range on momentum. That was expected. And what's been nice is the breadth. The breadth has been picking up. We've talked about that the last couple of updates. We're in the high range now. We're not anywhere near that extreme. So we're still, we're still assuming that this market will end up moving higher. In the short term, again, it could have another day or two or something where it moves sideways or down a little bit, but still looks like the uptrend's intact. Sentiment is in the high range, but not in extreme range, so we're still good there. One of the things I pointed out on Tuesday, the reason why we got into some of those new trades was that I was anticipating that buy-sell ratio of the entire market would get back up above 1, and it did. It's at 1.44 today. And so that's good. That means that there's more buys than sells in the overall market itself. We're starting to see the buys start to outpace the sells right here as it's crossing over. And again, it's not an extreme range yet to worry about it being overbought. So all that looks good. Sentiment is getting a little high on this indicator. We're getting close to that red line there, but with today's pullback, and if we have another day where it pulls back a little bit or moves sideways a little bit, that should kind of even out a little bit. We're not too concerned with that yet. If we look at individual stocks, we can take a look at the SPY. One thing to keep an eye on in this is you can see that we're just kind of hugging. I won't be able to draw a straight line, but we're kind of hugging this resistance line up here. And, so, even if we pull back a little bit, we'll probably rally back up to that line. Now, I think at some point in this current move that we're going to break out above that. I think that's what we're going to break out above that and then hit those extreme overbought levels. I keep talking about this, but again, that may or may not happen. But the market just where it's at right now and how things are going, just kind of has the feel like this is about where it'll start breaking out, and that should create that hyper bullishness of the market where we get too confident and not worried about a pullback at all, and that could set up those conditions for a bigger pullback later on. We'll see how that plays out, but keep an eye on that little trend line there to see how often the market kind of bounces off of that, or if it finally breaks out above it. You could also draw the same thing on the bottom here. It's been hugging this little trend line down here. So we're in this range. So you got to pay attention to that range because that's, if it breaks above or below that range, that's going to tell us something significant is taking place. Couple other things we're looking for. In this rally, we'd like to see the Dow end up breaking out to new all-time high. It's just been pausing the last couple of days right here, but again, nothing to worry about on that. Nothing that I'm concerned about off of that. NASDAQ 100. First time in a while it's pulled back a little bit today. It's already broken out to its all-time high, and so that doesn't concern me. I do want to keep an eye on the Russell 2000. We've been really focusing on this because this is indicating the market breadth has been picking up. It is down a little bit today, but this is what you like to see on a little bit of a pullback. That on a pullback day where it causes you to not be too concerned is when it's back and forth. You had a high up here, an intraday low down here. The opening and closing, or opening and current price in the market is in between right here. This candle right here shows indecision, and so it's not a panicky type of pullback by any means. It's just kind of a little bit of a indecision day, and that's healthy. All right. I don't want to go through the whole update here, but I did want to point out on the bonds, because this is an area we were watching. Hold on just a second here. All right, so we were watching this. If we broke this, well, these are the main areas we're looking at to break above or below. And we are, I said, but here's a smaller one right here. I mentioned this on Tuesday that could indicate that maybe it's going to work its way lower. Because I was looking at this as a bullish ABC pattern for a move higher. And if this is a move higher, you should kind of be stair-stepping up through this range. Now that we kind of gone to a little bit of a lower low right there, that puts that in doubt. It doesn't wipe it out, because it's, like I said, these are the main highs and lows that we're focused on. So could it come down here a little bit, or we even have a little bit of a bullish reversal day here? Could it just stop right there and continue to move higher? Absolutely. But that is something to kind of pay attention to. Is that a start of making it a stronger probability that it works its way down to this lower end? If we continue to move lower, then it puts this low in play as a potential for that bearish reversal back down in bonds there. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'm not going to go through all the other ones. Haven't changed much from what we talked about on Tuesday. The VIX, though, you want to pay attention to, because it's up a little bit today, but again, usually it's going to be moving inversely to the S&P anyway. The S&P is down, the VIX should be up, and so what we want to watch for there is we see it start to spike up, and I don't see that yet, so I think we're good as far as that's concerned. All right, so let's look at some individual stocks, and then we'll go through our portfolio. Under computer and technology, I'm looking at this SGOC right here. It's a 97 strength rank. Let's turn our signals on here. Now this has had a pretty deep pullback, and so this is one we'll kind of, it looks like maybe that's bottomed out right there. Like I said, usually it's not going to pull back this far. It had this big move up. It's come almost all the way back down. The fact it had a nice bullish day right there, settled in a little bit, and it has another bullish day today, giving us a higher low and a higher high right here. I'm going to throw this in there because if this can get back to a buy signal, it might be starting to work its way back up to the highs up here, and we'd have a pretty good reward to risk where we could get in, start a stop down below here, move it up under here if it keeps going higher, and kind of trail that stop up. So let's see how close this is to. Yeah, it still has a little ways to get back to that buy signal there, but we'll throw this in the watch list. So I'm going to go ahead and do that instead of coming back and putting it in. The way you put it in your watch list, first of all, you have to set up a watch list to give it a title. Um, and then you're going to click on this little green button right here. And if you're not quite sure which button, just put your mouse over it. You'll see a little pop-up box come up. It says add to watch list right there. So we're going to click on that. It'll ask which watch list. If you have multiple watch lists like I do, I'm going to select a stock specific class down here. And you can either click save and go to the watch list page or just save. I have other stocks I want to go to, so I'm just going to click save and move on to the next one. And then we can look at it as a full watch list later on, but I'll save us a little bit of time here. By the way, for those that are new, I have a significant number of trainings that I've done over the last year, 8 months or so, 9 months. If you go to YouTube and go to TradersPro or type in TradersPro, you'll see the different videos. If you look for, watch lists, there's a class on setting up watch lists and things like that you can go through if you're kind of a little bit lost on some of these things that we're covering. I try to do a little bit of training as I go with people that are new, but I also don't want to repeat so much that people that are already familiar with all this that are tuning in each week, don't get too bored or start screaming at me to hurry up. So try to keep a little bit of a balance there. All right, let's take a look at another stock in the computer and technology. And I've liked this one for a while, but it's been kind of choppy and sideways recently. But Blink Charging Company, BLNK down here, it's a 95 strength rank. I want to back out a little bit so you can see, you can see the side. It's been back and forth, up and down, kind of moving sideways the last few months. If you back out to like a 2-year chart, you can kind of see why I like this in the longer term. This looks like, here we had the explosive move that it had last year. Since then, it's kind of pulled back. And what I'm looking at here in the longer term right now is I can see that it looked like it bottomed out right here, had a little bit of a higher low right here and another higher low right here. Recently, this has kind of retested that low. You have kind of a double bottom right here. But what we haven't seen is we haven't been able to see it take out higher highs yet. It had a lower high right here, had a lower high right here. But I'm going to throw this in the watch list because if this second bottom right here that it's held can hold, if it can hold there and start moving up, give us a buy signal. I may even wait to see if it can go to a higher high, finally take out one of these highs and goes to a higher high. But there's potential there that this could be turning the corner. I mean, it's acting with those higher lows. It's acting like it might be starting to build a little bit of support right here, a little bit of a foundation for it to start rallying again. The story of this stock and some of these companies, we're probably already familiar with is, these are related to some of the new clean energy technologies out there, and so again, there's potential there. This could start to make another run. Again, it won't hurt us to kind of throw this in the watch list. Let me go back down to the 6-month chart here. So, I mean, even this was a slightly higher low. So, I mean, we're still kind of reaching higher lows here. And what we want to see is to break out to a higher high. I may, if this goes to a buy signal, I may go ahead and get in on the buy signal, put a stop down below here. And then if it goes above this high, it confirms that trend. Or I could decide to wait until it breaks above that high. I mean, there's lots of different decisions, different ways you can manage that situation there. And a lot of it for me depends on market conditions. If the market conditions still look really good, I might get in as soon as I get a buy signal. If I get a buy signal, who knows? Maybe this thing goes to a lower low and we bump this up, we kick it out of the watch list. But if the market conditions still look bullish, I probably would look to buy on that buy signal. If the market conditions look week, or if it looks like they're getting extreme, or we'll get extremely overbought and can have a bigger pullback, I might wait for a breakout first, as just additional confirmation. So let's put this in the watch list here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go. Let's add the watch list. I'm going to actually go to the watch list page. I forgot we need to put in our email alert to let us know when it goes from hold to buy. So let's save and go to watch list here. And then we're going to check this box for the alert right here. And I'm going to check this one. Let's do the one on the one previous to. Let's do both of these. I'll do Blink first. Hold on. Email me when it goes from hold to buy. Click save, and then do the same thing on SGOC. All right, let's go to industrial products. And I really liked one in this list, this TWI, Titan International. And again, to see this, I want to back out to like a 2-year chart so we can kind of see the context of this. You have this big run up. This looks like the big correction, the ABC correction. This looks like it could be starting the new uptrend. It went to a buy, but then came back down. But it gave us a higher low right here. It looks like it's moving back up again. Now this low is going to be important. If it breaks below that, it's gone to a lower low, and I might kick it out of the watch list at that point if it does that first. But if it continues to move higher, then I'd be keeping an eye on this. It'd probably go back to a buy before it gets up here, but that I could use that as additional confirmation. Maybe I do end up buying on a buy signal, but I would use that previous high right here as confirmation. It's acting like an uptrend that breaks to a higher high, higher high, higher low. Let's zoom back into a 6-month chart here. Now this wasn't, usually on your pullbacks, you'd like to see it a little bit more choppy when it pulls back. This is definitely a little bit more impulsive looking. So, I'll keep that in mind. Because there's also a possibility that maybe this correction isn't done. That's just the first move, and this is actually a bearish ABC pattern correcting that move down, and then maybe this is an impulsive move down. Maybe this is a little correction, and then you're having another impulsive move down. We can't know exactly how it's going to go. So again, we don't need to make a decision now. Let's see how it looks when we get a buy signal. And even then, you get a buy signal, and then we could maybe put a stop down below here. You get in on a buy signal, put a stop down below there. If this is a start of a bigger move down, it'll come down and stop us out. And so be it. If not, it could run all the way up, and we have that potential to make more than we lose if we're right. We make more when we're right than we lose when we're wrong, which is the whole goal of our trading. So we don't have to make a decision now, but there's potential there that could be starting to move higher. So let's go ahead and put it in the watch list. And let's put in our alert. All right. Under the construction sector. I like HOV. I've been in this one a few times over the last year and a half. Take a look at a bigger picture of this one. We traded it a lot through this run up through here. We had a few trades over in here. Now it's come back, But while we're in this larger chart right here, what I see that I really like is it looks like we have an inverse head and shoulders pattern. One of my favorite patterns to trade. Here's your neckline right here. And not only do you have an inverse head and shoulders pattern, but you have a previous high all the way up here. So if you do get a buy signal, and you know, say we get a buy signal here pretty soon, and then we put a stop down below here, you know, you don't have very much risk for a nice reward, or at least you have potential for a much greater reward than what you're risking. And again, that's what you're always looking for. Anytime I can see at least a 2-to-1 where I have a chance to make twice as much money if I'm right and I lose if I'm wrong, it's always something that I'd like to take advantage of. Now on that 6-month chart, you can kind of see this a little bit more detail, that potential inverse head and shoulders pattern. Now again, we may get a buy signal before it breaks out. You could either buy on the buy signal or wait for the breakout. There's different choices there that you can make. It's getting close, so I would imagine once it gets back up to that breakout area, it'll give us that buy signal. But this looks really good. Let's go ahead and add that one in. And put in the alert. All right. Let's move into oil and energy. And go into the hold section here. Like this one near the top of the list, WLL. That's a 100 strength rank right now, but I like it's pulled back a little bit recently. You can see that, again, if you look at a longer term chart, you can see that. Here is your larger uptrend. It's larger uptrend through here. This looks like a potential A, B, C correction. This move up right here, if we zoom in again, another thing to look for at a potential bottom is, do you see kind of back-to-back impulsive moves in the opposite direction? You have this move down. This looks a little bit more choppy, more corrective, and this looks impulsive down. This looks like impulsive up. What would kind of confirm that to me is when this thing corrects again, does it look a little bit more choppy or sideways? That would kind of give me an inverse head and shoulders pattern too. But if it does that, that really confirm that the thing is could be reversing, could be done with this pullback and start a new uptrend. We don't have to make a decision right now because we're not at a buy signal yet, but we could look at this. We want to keep an eye on this one, so let's go ahead and add this one in. And let's put in our alert. Another one in that oil sector was the CEIX, Consol Energy, 96 strength rank. Now, and one thing I'll keep an eye on here, and we don't have to make a decision on this now, is that obviously it looks like it's pulled back and giving a higher low right there. Recently had a higher high. The problem though is that, and it's starting to move back up again, which is good, but you have to realize too that this doesn't look real corrective on the move down. Not real choppy, you know, not looking like this where it's back and forth. So it could be that this is just wave A. This is just a wave B. Remember, one of one of the things wave B is known for is it's tend to be called a suckers rally. It looks like things are going to go all the way back up, and it's just a suckers rally, and you get another move down for wave C, and then you resume the trend. So you always have to be prepared for that possibility. Now, there's plenty of times where stocks make, you know, here it just made kind of a quick drop and then took off again. It doesn't always have to have that A, B, and C look to it, but it does it enough times where you have to assume that's a possibility. again, we don't have to make a decision yet because we don't have a buy signal, and usually a bounce, usually if that's a wave B bounce, it's not usually going to retrace much more than 50% of that first move down. And we're right at that, if not a little bit above it. It could go a little bit above it. But if it starts moving up here, if we get our buy signal up here close to the breakout, I would assume that's less likely that's a wave B for another move down for wave C, and more probable that that's the correction and this thing's about to break out. So, but again, we don't have to make that decision right now. Let's go ahead and just put it in our watch list. Yeah, this one is close to getting a buy signal though. Probably another up day. If it goes higher, takes out that high right there, we'll probably get a buy signal on it. So let's add this in. And put our alert. Our watch list is getting kind of big here. That's okay. We're gonna go through the upper part of this list. If there's any that we feel we need to boot out, we can boot out. Let's do two more. I want to get into. Actually, let's do one more. All right, let's go into the actually, I'll show you two charts here. One we're not going to consider. I want to explain why on one of them. Medical sector here under our hold. I was looking at this BNGO up here, 98 strength rank. And if you kind of look at a little bit of a longer term chart of this, again, what I'm looking for here is I had this big explosive move. It's pulled back. It's tried to rally. It's pulled back. Is this going to get? Is it starting to form a little bit of a bull right here? Is that going to end up being a higher low? Again, we're real early here, but I'm going to just kind of throw this in the watch just to kind of keep an eye on it. What I want to see is, do we go to a buy signal and go to a higher high right there? It might be worth a trade if it does that. But again, we could look at this later. I'm not saying this is the strongest pattern out there, but I just noticed that this is one that at least drew my attention, that it could be turning the corner a little bit. And it's worth kind of keeping an eye on. If it drops back down and takes out this low, I'll just kick it out of the list, because it's not worth my time at that point. I don't know when because that kind of makes it less likely that it's forming this bowl-shaped move and could end up going lower. So we'll have a really tight leash on this one. And then one more I wanted to, let's put this in real quick. This one I want to point out. Let's go into the medical sector here, and let's look at a stock you should be pretty familiar with if you've been dealing with vaccines lately. But Moderna, mRNA right here, 97 strength ranks. Now, again, the stock has pulled back, and it'd be tempting to look to jump back in this thing if it goes back to a buy signal. But what I want to point out is the reason why I'm not going to consider this. Again, this goes back to the real basic impulsive corrective move, the stair step. And when you're moving up, you have an impulsive move up. Your steps are more choppy, more sideways. Impulsive move up, more choppy, more sideways. Typically, when you reverse trend, you tend to have an impulsive move up followed by an impulsive move down, and that looks like what we have right here. And then if that is a reversal of trend, what should follow is you should repeat that impulsive corrective moves on the way down. So if you have impulsive up, impulsive down, and then you have corrective, what should follow is another impulsive move down. And then when you tend to bottom out, you'll have typically again, you'll have impulsive move down, impulsive move up, and then it alternates impulsive, corrective. That's what I'm worried about here. Is that could this be impulsive? This definitely looks corrective. So do we have a trend reversal? Do we have further to drop? Now it might just be that's wave A, and this This is wave B, and it has one more move down for wave C, and that's probably what it is. A little bit larger correction here, and then it resumes the uptrend. But if it has that next move down, let's not buy it here. Let's wait for that next move down, because that's more probable that it would get that next move down. And then let's wait for it to go back to a buy signal. Let's put in a watch list, wait for it to go back to a buy signal, and look to get back in. So I like that it's pulled back a little bit, but it looks like it has further to pull back. So, we could look at it again a little bit later, but I'm not going to consider this one for a trade. All right, so we've got our stocks in our watch list. Let's go through that watch list. And again, you can, if you click on the first stock in that watch list, ZDGE, we can set it up to where we can just scroll down through those stocks. We're gonna do so by clicking this drop down menu. We have my watch list here. You have different, if you have several different watch lists, we're gonna select stock specific class. And now all I have to do is scroll through those, clicking this little down, this right arrow. If I want to go back up the list, I click the left arrow. And we've had ZDGE in for a while. It is starting to get a little bit ridiculous of how far this is going back and forth. I'm going to leave it in, even though today's down a little bit. I'm going to leave it in only if it can take out this high within the next week or so. If it rolls over again and comes down, I'm kicking this thing out. It's just not worth. Our watch list is too big. We'll come back to it. It'll show up again where we can get in. But I really don't like to see back and forth moves like this for too long, because a little bit of indecision is fine. It's natural. Too much indecision, you got to start to wonder, does anybody really know where the stock is, or have any confidence of where the stock is going? So, a little bit of indecision is what creates our stair steps, right? But if I start to get a stock, and the sideways movement is indecision. It's the buyers aren't sure it's going to go higher. The sellers aren't sure it's going to go down. So the buyers don't want to be too aggressive to buy. The sellers don't want to be too aggressive to sell. When that drags out, at some point you got to say, okay, nobody knows what to do with this stock. There's lots of other stocks out there. Why do I have to fixate on one that can't figure out what it wants to do? Let it figure it out, and I'll come back to it later. And even if I miss that first move, when it finally figures it out, it'll stair step again and give me another chance to get in. So I'm about at that point on this one. But this is also like have you ever ever watched a bad movie? And sorry about that. Can everyone still hear me? Yeah, my headset came out. You ever see a bad movie, and it's a bad movie, and you've been watching it for about a half hour or so, and you're like, this is really a dumb movie, but you're like, it's intriguing enough to know how it ends that you still keep watching. You're like, oh, maybe it'll get better, or maybe. And so you end up spending a good hour and a half watching a movie you wished you would have never watched. But you just got to, you've invested so much time already. You're like, I got to just see how it ends. I know this is dumb, and I'm probably going to regret it later, but I got to see how it ends. I'm almost at that point with this stock. We've had it in our watch list so long, but I've drawn the lines now. I'm not going to give it much more time. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. That one's one of the new ones we put in. One is not going in order here. Hold on. It should go right down in order. We should go to JILL next. Scroll through these. There we go. This is another one that I may be close to booting out. I mean, that's moving sideways for a little bit too long. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and boot this one out. I got to boot something out today. That list is getting too big. So I'm going to boot that one out. Let's continue to go through the list. Like I said, this will come back in. If it looks good, we'll see it again because it still has a decent strength, 98 strength rank. we can check on it later. But BTBT, I'll keep this one in. It's back down to hold right here, but it's still right, a little bit more than a 50% retracement of that move. That's still a key area right here if it can start to rally. BNTX. Now, I am a little concerned about BNTX because this is starting to look a little bit more like Moderna here. Now, I was looking at this as being a little bit more of a choppy move, and then it was starting to look like it was taking off. But now that I look at it, this is looking more sideways. This maybe looks like that move down. This is more sideways. Maybe that's that situation where this is wave A, wave B, and we get wave C. This is one of the same stocks that's in that medical sector, and it's kind of tied to the vaccine research and everything. I'll leave it in with the understanding that it might still have another move down. We'll decide when we get that. If we get that buy signal, it's close to getting a buy signal. If we can get a nice sharp move up, and we get that buy signal where it really looks like it's taken off again. But if it's still choppy like this and we get a buy signal, I may just boot it, or may keep it in there and watch it a little bit longer. But I'll keep a tight leash on that one. KRUS, this is really close to getting our buy signal. We added this one in last time. We added it in, we booted it out when it came down here a little bit too low, but then it had a nice sharp move up. Today's a little bit of a down day, and it's an inside day. So you had a bullish candle right here. We got to put the candles on so you can see. And I covered inside days on one of the trainings there if you want to go and look at candlestick training. But if it closes like this, it'll close inside. The body of today will close inside of yesterday's move, and it's in opposite direction. So this was an up day. This opened up here, and it's down here right now, so that'd be a down day. This is it's a very short-term signal, but it's bearish in the short term, meaning it usually you'd see it pull back a little bit off of that. Now, most of these candle formations are very short-term in nature, so you don't want to draw a conclusion this thing is going to drop all the way down here or something like that. But it should drop a little bit further, and then it could start moving back up again. We don't have a buy signal yet, so we're not in it, so we don't really care if it pulls back a little bit more. In fact, with this sharp move right here, it'd be nice to get a little bit of a retracement of that. So if it can kind of pull back a little bit into here and then come up and give us a buy signal, that'd be a really nice looking chart at that point. I'd have a lot more confidence buying into it if it does that. So let's see how that one goes. And then STO, this is one we added today. So we've kind of cleaned up our watch list then. And we can either eliminate. We're going to eliminate GILL here. So just click the red X button right here. It'll kick it out of the list. All right, let's go to my portfolio. We're down a little bit with the pullback today. A lot of that was. Actually, I'm on the wrong one here. We're not down a little bit. We're right at break even. We're right at 100,000. But that has to do with today's pullback. But get used to that type of fluctuation. We were up $2,000 on Tuesday. We're back down to break even today. And like I said, I don't see any panic in the selling, which means the market should continue to move higher. Real quickly here, in case I run out of time, we did trigger a stop. Though we're real close. This AVNT right here, it was down a little bit lower during the day. Our stop is at 34 and we're at 34.07. We're below that actually earlier. In fact, that's why I put it in my notes to stop out of it. I still might go ahead and stop out of it just because I don't like, that's a pretty ugly data. It dropped pretty sharply today. Did come a little bit off the lows. Our stop, remember, is at 34, which is basically right where it's at right now. But it's taken out this low right here. It's possible this could be wave A, wave B, wave C, correcting this move up. But because of how sharp and impulsive that is, and there's a huge amount of volume. Let's look at the volume on it. Yeah, that's huge volume right there. So there's definitely heavy selling pressure on this thing. I'm going to go ahead and stop out, okay? And here's why. It looks ugly. Our plan was to stop out at 34. Now, the problem is that could it go above 34? Well, it did move a little bit above 34, and we have another hour before the market closes. Could you wait and make a judgment call? You could, but like I said, that's a pretty sharp move down. Even if it comes up a little bit further, that's a pretty sharp move down on heavy volume. My thought process would be stop out. Go ahead and stop out. If you stop out of this thing, does it mean you can't get back in it again? No. So we'll take our loss. We should have been already okay with taking that loss, that amount, getting into the trade. If this is wave A, wave B, and this is wave C, and that was a capitulation sell-off, and it's going to start moving back up again, then if it gets back up here and it breaks out of this range again, could we get back in it again? Yeah. We're not, it's not like if we get out of this thing, we can never get back in again. So, but based on the way it's acting right now, there's a much higher probability it's going to come down to these lows than go back up to these highs based on what I'm seeing right now. So from a probability standpoint, let's go ahead and stop out. And then, again, if it rebounds again, we can always jump back in again, or we'll probably find another stock that is in a better trend, a stronger trend, is acting more bullish, and why not ride it back up on make that money back on a stronger stock? Don't feel like you have to make your money back on the stock that took it from you. That's a big mistake that people make. We call that revenge trading. It's like, I'm going to get back at this stock and it's going to give me my money back, right? And we all do it. I mean, we've all done it before, but it's dangerous because, why not take that money and go put it into a stock that, has a nice cup with handle formation and is breaking out and could really take off quickly. Why not get into something that has a chance to work a little bit better, especially after big down days like this. Another thing with big down days like this on heavy volume, I had an instructor, and this is not almost anyone out there has used this analogy before, but I was taught this early on, that whenever you see a big sell-off on heavy volume, picture a boxing match, right? And that fighter just took an uppercut, and he is seeing stars, and he's on the mat for a 10 count. He's not knocked out yet, but he's trying to remember his name. He gets back up. He managed to get back up for the 8 count, right? The referee checks him and says, "You okay?" And you say, "Oh, okay, I'm okay." And he resumes the fight. Now, what kind of condition is that boxer in after almost getting knocked out and managing to get to his feet? Is he still wobbly, or is he fully alert and confident at that point? No, 90% of the boxers at that point are probably going to go down again because they're not back to normal yet. That's a knockdown right there. So why would I expect it to go right back up again if the guy just got knocked out? Again, from a probability standpoint, is it much more likely he's going to recover and go right back up, or is it much more likely that he'll get that standing 8 count, it might rally a little bit, and then bam, he gets knocked out completely, That's probably more likely to happen when you get that type of damage. So anytime you see a big down day on heavy volume, don't look at this and say, "Oh, I better buy right here. The damage is all done. It's going to go right back up, and it's going to go right back up immediately." No, in fact, if it does go back up, which it still could, that boxer with the standing 8 count still could win the fight, but it's probably going to be more choppy as it works its way back up. Take a lot more time as it works its way back up. And again, you got to ask yourself the question, could this go back up? Yeah. But could I also take that money and get it into one and be the boxer that just knocked the other guy out? And this thing's about ready to take off, breaking out of a couple of handle pattern or something, where it's likely to go quickly, or an inverse head and shoulders pattern where it's likely to break out and go quickly. A good example of this was a trade I just made on. I made a couple of. One was on DraftKings and one was on Penn. Let's look at. Let me look at. I can't remember. They have a. Both of them had kind of an inverse head and shoulders pattern, but here's kind of an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Here's kind of your neckline right here, and look, when it broke out, it took off. Penn did the same thing. And these were option trades. So when option trades, I'm not focused on strength rank and that kind of stuff. So you're wondering why, well, the strength rank was lower. I'm just looking for pure momentum on these. But again, like an inverse head and shoulders pattern, broke out on a nice strong breakout right there. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see this choppy rise, slow rise back up. So anyway, to go back to my portfolio, I'm going to go ahead and just stop out of this one. Well, even there, while I'm talking, we drop back down below 34. So let's go ahead and sell it. Plus, we're using up a lot of our portfolio. Here's our available cash right here. We're at about 20. Where was it? I think we were like at 25% available. So it'll free up that money to go again, get into something else when something else comes up. So let's go ahead and now when you click on the sell, you gotta click on this green box right here, otherwise it won't pull up the box. And I want to sell all 250 shares. And I'm going to put down the current price right here is 33.81 we see. So I'm going to put in 33.81 as our exit. Now we got in at 38. Oh wait, sell price 33. Yeah, 33. Oh, that makes a difference here. 33 because it's showing a real small loss here. I'm like, that's not right. 33.81. And then, so we're going to lose a little over $1,200. But we were ready to lose that anyway. I mean, so we're going to go ahead and sell that. That's going to show up in our trading history here too. Now we've stopped out of 2 trades now. We stopped out of this one right here, this FUV. We stopped out of AVNW. We haven't gotten out of a trade with profit yet. But again, it's still early. We're still letting these trends continue. So again, that's not that big of a deal. We're down a little bit right here. Like I said, as we sold out of that one, we're down a little bit below our 100,000 here. But the other patterns look pretty good. Let's go through those real quick. I'm not adjusting any stops today, so let's take a look at our positions here. TFMT, again, it's still down a little bit today. Our stop's right below here, so we're fine. That whole chart still looks good. Let's scroll through these here. So what I did is I selected my portfolio and then stock specific class, so I can just scroll through these. RM, think we did. I don't know if I'm. Let me go back to the. Let me see what the stop was on that one. It's 50, so I think it did move it right below that. Oh, it's still down here. So I haven't adjusted that one yet, and I'm not. It's still right down in here. I'd like to get it below there, but with today's weakness right here, I'm going to keep it down there to give this a little bit of room still. And it still looks okay. It still looks fine. MSTR, I did move the stop up to just below here. Again, it's having a down day today, but this looks impulsive. This looks more choppy, more corrective. That still looks fine. Mara, again, our stop is right below here. Down day today, but it broke out recently. Not worried about this at all. ASPN, we're actually up today, and one of the few stocks up today, but it still looks fine. Our stop has been moved already to right below here. Riot, very similar to Mara. It had a down day today. Our stop is right below here. STKS, it's down a little bit today, but notice how it's higher than where it opened. That's a bullish reversal candle. So even though this is that real subtle thing, even though it's saying it's down 1% for the day, the price action of the day is actually a little bit more bullish. It's still, it opened down here. It tried to rally. It's kind of faded a little bit, but it's still higher than where it opened. That's a pretty good, that's still a pretty good bullish price action for the day. We'll see if it can cause it to go higher tomorrow, but that still looks fine. Tesla still looks good. Our stop is, I think, below this low right here, so we're still fine on that. And again, this is, notice how it's pulled back the last couple of days. It's more sideways right here. Anytime you see a stock moving sideways, you want to pay attention to the direction it was moving in before it moves sideways. That's where it's more likely to go after it's done moving sideways. What was the direction before it started to move sideways? It was up. So when this sideways move is done, and it's not done, may not be done yet, but when it is, it should resume that direction, should move higher. Now, it could still pull back a little bit for a couple of days or move sideways for a few more days. But when it's done, it should continue to move higher. Now, it could be, here it's moving sideways. It could be a real quick move higher and then drop like that. It doesn't say it's going to make a huge move, resume a huge move when it's done moving sideways. And here was a situation where it moved sideways and the previous move was up. Where it didn't, it came right back down. It came right down. This is usually rare, though. That usually doesn't happen very often. So the point I'm trying to make is don't assume that it's always going to go back up. Nothing is always going to do anything in the stock market. We look at probabilities though. Anytime you see a sideways move and the previous move was up, the higher probability is that stock will resume that upward trend once that corrective move or that sideways move is done. Dillard's still looks good. Now we did move our stop up to 180, which is just below this breakout area. But it's down a little bit today, but it's come off the lows of the day today. That's a good sign. It was all the way down here and it's coming off the lows. Mosey. Where did I have my stop on this one? 490. So right below this low right here. So I already moved that stop up. Oh yeah, I did move it up because we broke out right here. But again, we're up a little bit today, despite but this is a little pullback it had recently, which is just fine. Everything looks good still on this one. Looks like it's working its way up on the right side of that bowl. These are good. CAN down a little bit today. I think our stop is still all the way down here. We're going to give it a little bit of that room still, but we're waiting to see if it continues to look like it's moving back up. Want it to break out. As soon as it breaks out to a higher high right there, we'll move our stop right up below here. But overall, even though it's down a little bit today, still looks fine. OPRX up today. Higher low right there. Where do we put our stop on this one? I think we put it below. It's 555. Yeah, we put it right below here. Which is where I'd want it. So it's paused a little bit last couple of days. Fine. Looks good. Looks fine. NTLA. Again, pull back a little bit. Still looks fine. We want to make sure that low holds, though. That was a higher low right there. It's the main reason for the trade. And our stop is below. I can't remember where our stop is on that one. Let's see. 125. So we have it down. We have a pretty wide stop down below here. As soon as this thing moves up, gets close to this breakout area, we'll move the stop up to that low, which is really where we'd like to get it up there as soon as we can. In the near term, though, we got to give a little bit of room to get going. We're still early in that trade. All right, so again, everything looks good. We got rid of the one that didn't look good, and even that one was, one you could have waited till the end of the market day to make a decision or give it another day or so, but I think it was best to go ahead and get out of that one. Frees up a little bit more capital for some of these newer trades we have on our watch list if they trigger. But yeah, don't get too caught up in the ups and downs, especially emotionally. Last Thursday we were down $1,500. What I said, well, the chart still looked good. No reason to panic, right? What happened on Tuesday? We were up $2,000. No reason to go, start making a list of what you want to buy and how you want to spend the money yet. Don't get too excited about the $2,000 gain. It's back and forth. Now we're back down $100 or so. Looked at the charts. No reason to panic. And we'll let this thing go. But that's how you trade. You can't be a up and down roller coaster every day on your emotions, or it's going to drive you crazy. You won't be able to do it. And how do you keep those emotions in check? You keep the amount that you're risking in these trades. Right now, we're risking anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 per trade. If we get stopped out, that's what we're looking to lose. And again, if that's too high for you, then you're going to have to buy fewer shares to get that risk amount down. And this is based on entry price and stop, where we put our stop. Might need to get that amount down to $300 to $500 or something like that. Then do it. Whatever causes you to be able to not be on that emotional roller coaster. And if you can do that, I promise you, trading is going to be a lot more fun, and you're going to be better at it. If you're going from high-fiving the world when you have you're up on your trade and ready to jump off a bridge when you're down on your trade, you're never going to survive. You're never going to make it. All right, that's all I have. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday for the next market update. If there is anything that triggers tomorrow or Monday, if I don't think I can get to class, I might make a decision, go ahead and add it to the portfolio, or stop out if I have to stop out. But I try as best I can to make those decisions in class so you can see it, even if it means we lose a little bit more money, or in some cases we make a little bit more money. But just so you can, because the whole purpose of this is to teach you. I don't care what happens with this portfolio ultimately, because this is not real money that we're doing in this portfolio right now. It's just so. But the point is, I want to teach you how to do this, and so again, I'll try to wait as much as possible to teach this stuff in the update classes. All right, bye everyone. Have a great weekend.